Good evening, everyone. My name is Claire Hardy, and it is my pleasure to be your MC for this evening. Welcome to the 2021 Volunteers Recognition Awards. Thank you to those who are able to join us in person at Riverlinks East Bank and tonight and those at home watching the awards on live stream. A special welcome to Greater Shepparton City Councilors who are here with us this evening. Mayor Kim O'Keefe, Deputy Mayor Rob Presley, hopefully I said that right, Councillor Greg James, Councillor Anthony Brophy, and Councillor Fern Summers. Councillor Jeff Dobson, Seema Abdullah, Sam Spinks, and Shane Sully send their apologies. I would now like to introduce Auntie Faye Linman, hopefully I said that right, sorry, to conduct the Welcome to Country.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to pay the respects to the traditional owners of the land, the Yorta Yorta Nations, elders past and present, and the upcoming. I am so honoured to be here tonight. Look at yous all. How many volunteers. You are the backbone of everything. I mean, you know, I didn't think there were so many, but look at you all. And I think you all better give yourselves a clap. Because you are wonderful. And you've got to spread the word around. We need a lot more to help yous. Well done, everybody, and a big welcome to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Faye. It was an honor to have you conduct a Welcome to Country. I would now like to introduce you to Greater Shepparton City Council Mayor, Councillor Kim O'Keefe. Please join me in welcoming the Mayor.
Thank you so much and good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here and how wonderful to be able to have our volunteer awards this year face-to-face, but also live streaming. So we also welcome our visitors that are actually watching it live stream. Thank you, Auntie Faye, for that wonderful welcome to country. It's always such a pleasure to be in the same room with Auntie Faye. I'm very proud to be here. I'd also like to acknowledge the Yorta Yorta peoples of the land, which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture, and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. So good evening, everyone. It is such a privilege to welcome you here to the 11th Annual Greater Shepparton Volunteer Recognition Awards, alongside my fellow councillors who have been recognised, but I would also like to acknowledge Deputy Mayor Councillor Rob Priestley, Councillor Greg James, Councillor Anthony Brophy, and I think Councillor Fern Summer is hopefully coming along as well tonight. Thank you for acknowledging the apologies as well for this evening. It is an honour to be here during National Volunteer Week as we celebrate and thank the hard work, dedication, commitment and passion of all volunteers across Greater Shepparton. The value and continued contributions volunteers give to our community is immeasurable. I am thankful that we have this opportunity tonight to recognise and celebrate the important work that you all do. Volunteers have faced huge challenges over the past year due to COVID-19. I acknowledge that many had to step down from their roles during the height of the pandemic due to the restrictions enforced across the state. Thankfully, we are now able to welcome them back, and I encourage and thank those who have taken up their volunteering positions across the region once more. There are many community organisations, including social, sporting and community clubs, who rely heavily on volunteers. These groups would not be able to operate without the support and contribution offered by these people. Tonight we recognise you all and acknowledge the variety of roles that you all fill for our communities. It is pleasing to see a large number of nominees for this year's awards. The volunteers here tonight represent a wide range of organisations, including the Salvation Army, Shepparton Search and Rescue, Greater Shepparton Lighthouse Foundation, Shepparton Food Share, a number of local men's sheds and service clubs. Volunteers here tonight also contribute to a variety of local sporting clubs across the region, and I thank you all very much for being here tonight. Council would also like to recognise the many volunteers that assist us in delivering programs and activities to our community, including Meals on Wheels, planned activity groups, events, the Greater Shepparton Visitor Centre, Riverlinks Shepparton Art Museum and many others. This year's theme for National Volunteer Week is Recognise, Reconnect and Reimagine. a fitting theme during our COVID-19 recovery. Tonight is one way we can recognise and reflect on local volunteers and the contribution you each have made. Volunteering is also a way for us to reconnect. We can reconnect to our communities and to others by giving our time to help our neighbours, friends and the wider community. Reimagining volunteering is important now more than ever. Over the last 7 years, Australia has seen a 20% decline in the number of hours volunteers give. During COVID-19, sadly, 2/3 of volunteers discontinued to support or do their activities. With this in mind, we need to explore ways of not only supporting, engaging and recognising volunteers, but also informing the community of the opportunities and benefits that volunteering provides. And I'm sure many of you here tonight identify with that. I encourage every one of you to continue making your valuable contributions to Greater Shepparton. You are one of almost 6 million volunteers across Australia, and please know that you are appreciated and you do make a difference to our communities. Congratulations to all of tonight's nominees. Council thanks you for your passion, your inspiration and dedication in supporting Greater Shepparton community. Each of your contributions are valued and applauded. Thank you and good luck to everyone this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I will now like to introduce you to our special guest speaker for the evening, Susan Alberti.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having me up here in Shepparton. To our Mayor, councillors, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. Auntie Faye, could I first of all begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of country and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. I pay my respects to them and their cultures and to their elders, past, present and emerging. Many of you probably don't know, but I have family here in Shepparton. I've lived here for decades, living in Knight Street, Shepparton, the Palmer family. And I can recall as a little girl coming up here and spending many, many holidays just enjoying being here in Shepparton. So I don't feel like I'm from the city. I do belong in the country, and I'll tell you why in a moment, why I'm really a country girl at heart. But it's a great pleasure to be here with you all here tonight, with this wonderful audience in person and online. And for those of you here at Riverlinks tonight, I'm sure there's something extra special about getting dressed up and going out, as what was happened in the last 12 months, and not having to converse on Zoom or being told all the time, Sue, you're still on mute. So it's wonderful to be here tonight and in person. And because I'm assuming many of you here in Shepparton, I read your newspaper today and was full of sporting activity and football, and I'm sure you share my love of Aussie Rules football today, as I brought along some membership application forms for the Western Bulldogs, if you feel like joining. I'm only joking. I don't get paid to say that, but guess you know who I barrack for. But I want to congratulate each and every one of you for participating in tonight's event, for your commitment to supporting your community as volunteers. I also serve on the National Board of Volunteering Australia. I was the National Vice President for a number of years, and I've been a volunteer for a very, very long time myself. So volunteerism is the lifeblood of rural and regional communities, particularly here in Shepparton. I've been a volunteer in one shape or form all of my life, which I'll touch on in my address tonight. As our lives become more and more complicated, it's really important to understand the importance of volunteering, because without volunteers, the local sporting club, health services and CFA would cease to exist. Today I want to give you an insight into my journey and why, or certainly tonight I want to give you an insight into my journey and my experience of giving to all the causes I believe in. But first, I need to take you back to the beginning. Yes, I am a country girl. I was born in Bairnsdale, Victoria. My mother and father were born in... My mother was born in Hamilton, my father was born in Bondi, New South Wales. Dad came out of the war after World War II from being in the army, and he then joined the police force. And as I was born in Bairnsdale, and as a result of Dad's job, Dad had to go to Melbourne to live. We had very little money after the war, and Mum and Dad had enough money just to have a deposit to put on a housing commission home, which I think are now called housing trust homes. So that's where I grew up, and I lived there until the day I was married. So I know it is to have and to have not. I know it is to also to aspire and to dream and to be a volunteer no matter what. Whatever I had, I wanted to help out. But I was constantly made aware of by others, particularly my teachers at school, at the local primary school at St Michael's in Shepparton, and then I attended Siena Convent, as it was known in those days, now Siena College. 129 students attended Siena when I was there, and now there are over 800. And I know that if my mother and father were alive today, they'd be very proud of me, because when I walk into that school now at Siena, and by the way, I was taught only by nuns. I didn't have a lay teacher at either school. And those nuns had a profound effect on me. Yes, they were strict, they were disciplined, but they had a lot to do with who I am now. And I know when I walk into the auditorium and I see my name, the Susan Alberti Auditorium, who would have thought the little girl that came from the Housing Commission would have an auditorium named after them? But I had dreams and I had plans, and that's what I wanted. I had dreams when I was a little girl. I think I wanted to be an entrepreneur when I was 6. So my own dear old dad, he worked for St Vincent de Paul. He was a policeman. He worked for St Vincent de Paul for about 62 years, right up until he died in his mid-80s. I don't recall a Christmas morning when my father was at home. He was off out feeding the needy and the hungry. That was his role at St Vincent de Paul, and then he'd rush home and he'd have lunch with his family. That was the father and mother, and my mother was exactly the same. That's how I grew up, that sort of environment. But Mum and Dad always instilled in me that I should give back, but I never knew how to give back because I had nothing to give. I had no money. I had a roof over my head. I had very good food on the table, and I was encouraged to play sport. And I thought, well, how can I contribute? What can I do as a little girl? So I would walk my bus fare. At the age of 6, I was catching 2 buses to get to school. And I recall I used to walk my bus fare and didn't tell Mum and Dad I did this because they would be horrified, and put my money in the mission box. And that was my start to giving back to the community that I lived in, because Mum and Dad always encouraged me to do it. So those early days instilled in me a sense of a fair go and never giving up. My education and family life set me on a path to where I am tonight and today. Whilst I'm a proud graduate of the Catholic educational system, I also have a degree from a School of Hard Knocks as arguably the first registered female builder in Victoria. I was involved in our companies, Alberti and Dansu Constructions, from the very beginning with my late husband, Angelo. Angelo was a migrant. He came to this country in 1959 at the age of 19. He had no money, no language, no family, no roof over his head, but a dream and a vision. By the time he was 24, he was already a leader. He was already in charge. And then he met me. And of course, life changed completely when he met me. Angelo had to learn English. And it was not easy for him, but he did it. He had to do it. And I thought, well, if it's good enough for him to learn English, it's good enough for me to learn Italian. I was always interested in the Italians and the Italian way of life and food and everything about Italians, not realising how beneficial that would be, having the language as an extra language later on. We were married in 1967. 3 months after we were married, Angelo had a horrific accident on site. Stick went through his eye. And as a result, he had about 12 operations, and in the end, it had to be removed. As a consequence of the removal of that eye, his kidneys failed and he had to have a kidney removed. Medication is not as strong now as it was then, but you live and you learn, don't you? And I recall him in and out of hospital, and I had to step up very quickly early in my life into a position that I was never trained for, because he was always in hospital. And as a result, we worked hard. We built up a very successful businesses, had many people working for us. But down the track, one day, Angelo was asked to go and check on one of our buildings. We had a couple of large industrial parks and other buildings, and no one could work out what the problem was with the roof leak. And when Angelo trained in Italy at the technical school, he was taught everything: carpentry, plumbing, electrical, not like here it is, you do one trade and that's it. So he went over there on his motorbike. It was a beautiful sunny day, left his car, it was being detailed. And unfortunately, as he rode his bike down into our estate, right on the corner of the name of our building company, Dansu Constructions, a drug-affected truck driver went straight through the intersection, didn't stop, and left him on the side of the road to die. So Angelo was rushed to hospital, and 3 weeks later I had to make a dreadful decision with my daughter sitting next to me to turn off his equipment because there was just no hope. So that was 3 weeks after he had the accident. But I had to make some very difficult decisions at that point in time when I turned off that equipment. I was hoping that he would survive. When I turned it off, or when the doctors turned it off, his heart kept beating for about 30 minutes, and I thought, this is a miracle. He's going to pull through. He's going to be okay. He was not only my husband, he was my business partner. He taught me so much. I learnt so much from him. I learnt the Italian way. He learnt the Australian way. And it was just a wonderful marriage and a wonderful business partnership. But I had to make a decision about our company at the time, which was quite large. We had 300 staff on the payroll. We had 3 other businesses with another 100 staff. So I had 400 people looking to me for leadership and guidance and their livelihood. And there were many young people at that particular time that were involved in an apprenticeship through our company. I was not a registered builder, which meant I had at that time had to make up my mind very quickly what I was going to do. We had 8 large projects on the go at the time, blue chip companies. If you know what having a contract, well, if you don't fulfil it, you can go to the wall very easily. So what I had to do, I had to make up my mind. So I decided I had to go back to school, back to TAFE, Holmes Glen TAFE. And as I walked into the classroom, I walked down to the front of the class. They were all men, not a single woman in sight. Now, this is in the 60s. And I recall all these migrants who didn't speak a lot of English, and they were Italian. And I thought, oh, this is going to be hard. This is going to be really difficult for me. So I thought, I'm going to help them with their paperwork because I was very good at it. I was always the girl in the back office handling all the finances. Quite often, Angela, I'd have up building. You'd build buildings and we didn't even have the finance. It was like a merry-go-round, you know, one up, one down. And I said, we haven't got the finance yet. Oh, don't worry about it. We'll find it. That was the Italian way. And you did a deal with your bank manager on the back of a serviette. You didn't need volumes of paperwork to get your deal over the line with your bank manager. So I thought, well, I'll help them with their paperwork. But wait for it. In the workshop, when I went into that workshop, I was able to talk to them in Italian, which was wonderful, and they really appreciated it that I could help them. In that workshop, those men were the most remarkable men I have ever met. To this day, I'm still friends with them. They helped me with the trades. They knew I was determined. They knew I had to get my qualification. I was on a fine line to get projects done, and of course I qualified. As I say, the rest is history. But many of those men still work for me today, and I'm still friends with so many of them. That's years and years ago. Wonderful men who have now established themselves in business, and they too are great success stories in this country. I was working very hard at that time, about 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, most days of the week actually, to keep the show on the road, to keep my employees in a job. And of course, these were in different times, with different community expectations. No superannuation, no paid maternity leave. Workplace standards are not what they certainly are today. I was very proud of what I was able to achieve in memory of my late husband Angelo, the migrant from Italy, who came from Udine, which is northern Italy. And I must say, he was blonde, blue-eyed, and he was pretty good looking too. When I met him, I thought he couldn't speak English, but boy, could he dance, and he was charming. So we delivered between us some great projects for the state of Victoria, and I too did myself. I kept the building business going for 10 years. So those early days instilled in me a sense of getting more women into building and how important it was to get women in the construction industry. The numbers were way too low then, and I'm ashamed to say it's not that much better in 2021. Did you know that only 1% of plumbing, carpentry and bricklaying workers in Australia are women? Even more concerning, those woeful stats don't seem to be improving. Those figures have been the same for 25 years. Just recently I discovered only 6 carpenters who commenced their apprenticeships over the last 2 years are women. 6 women have only started an apprenticeship in carpentry. We need greater gender diversity on building sites and in the trades more generally. And that is not just seeing the occasional worker with long hair or wearing pink nail polish directing traffic when you pass a newly constructed townhouse or apartment block. Apart from building construction, many of you would be aware of my passion for finding a cure for type 1 diabetes. The incidence of diabetes is growing in our community, indeed right around the world, at an alarming rate. You may ask, how do I know about it? And why should I be up here preaching and talking to you about type 2 and the things that cause type 2? I'll explain to you in just a moment. I'm sure there's probably someone here in the audience tonight who's either been personally impacted by the disease or has a family friend or a colleague who may have type 2 diabetes. In this country right now, we have an epidemic of diabetes. We have nearly 2 million people with type 2, a disease that can be prevented. And you ask how I know. Well, I serve on a government committee where I advise the Prime Minister on this epidemic we have in this country. We have another 1 million people who are undiagnosed. This is quite different to type 1. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease, and it's through no fault of a child that they get type 1. Once you're diagnosed with type 1, it's forever. Type 2, it can be controlled with diet and exercise. I'll explain to you too why I'm so strong on looking after your health and well-being. But type 1 affects about 150,000 Aussies, mainly children who are diagnosed with type 1, but there can be some adults with type 1. So finding a cure it's been a personal challenge of mine I took on over 40 years ago. My only child, unfortunately, I only had one. I wanted to have more. I had a vision and a plan. I always had a 5-year plan. Didn't work out. I wanted to have 4 children by the time I was 30. Danielle was diagnosed at the age of 12 in 1981 with type 1. Danielle found it very hard to accept her diabetes. She attended Sacre-Cœur in Melbourne University, and not long after then she went overseas after her father died. 20 years after she was diagnosed, I received a phone call from the United States, from New York, to say that my daughter was very ill. She needed a kidney. I better get over there. Danielle was attending Temple University at the time. She was completing a master's degree. She needed to find her own identity, and she also needed to do it her way. I taught her to be independent, to work hard, and not to be dependent on others. And I didn't know before she left, she applied for a bursary to be able to complete her master's. It would have been easy for me to write out a cheque at that time because life was good and I could financially support her. No, not my daughter. She wanted to do it her way. And when she was at university, she had an exhibition of her work. It was very good. This is 20 years ago. And it was on exhibition and her work was sold within 20 minutes. And it realised US $100,000. But what I didn't know is 100,000 US. What I didn't know until after her death, that her executor told me that she wanted to make a provision for other international students to be given an opportunity to study when they wouldn't be able to do that because they wouldn't be able to afford it. That was my daughter. I taught her to be independent and to be hard-working. When I got over there, Danielle's kidneys were failing and the kidney specialist said to me she needed a kidney. 2 of her colleagues from university stepped up, but they were not compatible. 2 complete strangers who'd got to love my daughter. And of course, I went to Mount Sinai. I was found to be compatible with that, given the green light to bring her home. Now, I would never embarked upon a journey or put my daughter in any danger of taking her home on a plane. We got on the plane in New York. She wasn't too bad. She was okay. We got to the lounge then in Los Angeles, and she collapsed. And I said, Danielle, hang in there. There's a new life waiting for you. My kidney is compatible. You can have my kidney, not realising that 9 months later I wouldn't never been able to give her a kidney. We got on the plane in Los Angeles. Not long out of Los Angeles, she started thrashing around, running a temperature, wanting to take off her clothes. She was in a bad way. And I called for medical help, but they didn't get to me in time. And Danielle was in pain, and she asked me to rub her back. I sat on the side of her seat, rubbed her back, and she said to me, Mum, I can't take the pain. And as I was rubbing her back and holding her, she said, Mum, please hold me tight. And as I held my daughter tight, she died in my arms of the massive heart attack complications from type 2 diabetes. I held her in my arms when she was born, a beautiful little girl, 6'9", perfect in every way. I held her in my arms when she died, and I'm so privileged to have been there with her on both occasions, my beautiful child. So, faced with the unknown, when I first told that Danielle was diagnosed, I'm a solution person. I had to find out what it was all about. Just thinking I'd find a solution. No, that was not to be. I was quite surprised and ill-prepared that juvenile diabetes, now known as type 1, then represented one of the major unknowns of medical science, and to a great extent it still does today. More importantly, I learned that its incidence was increasing at a rapid rate, and it's a demanding health issue that faces significant pressure on the whole family. So this personal experience set me on a quest to finding a cure for type 1. Danielle had exceptional artistic talents, achieved significant success in her short life until it was prematurely ended at the age of 32. Danielle would be 52 this year in November if she was alive. So A death more than 20 years ago has only increased my determination to find a cure. But it's pleasing to note that both types of diabetes now are getting the publicity that they should be getting, and hopefully people are listening to the message out there about diabetes and what it can do to you, because you won't die of diabetes, you'll die. You'll die from the complications of diabetes. So my own personal experience with type 1 served to increase my determination, to increase my volunteer time, my networking skills in the community, and my personal resources towards creating a better outcome for people with the disease in this country. This has involved me supporting and personally supporting and volunteering with financial and other assistance to a number of projects which are making a difference to the lives of many diabetes sufferers. And I don't wish to be boastful, but over that period of time, I've raised in excess of $200 million, which has gone back into the Australian community to make a difference to my fellow Aussies. So I talked about diabetes and being unhealthy. Not long after my husband died, I was diagnosed with cancer and I was very ill. I was very close to death. I had a 50-50 chance. And I remember when I was going in and out for chemo and radiation and operation, saying I'm going to change my life. At the time I was morbidly obese, I was unhealthy, I was unhappy, I was worrying about everybody else except myself. What a fool I was. Went over the top of my head, I went home and thought, oh, life's going to be okay. Well, I was sent for an X-ray, echocardiograph, and on the machine I had a heart attack. And they called an ambulance. I said, no, I'm going to drive myself. How foolish I was. My father was in the police force. If Vic Pole had seen me, they would have put me off the road. I drove myself to the Royal Melbourne Hospital into emergency, left my car in the car park, to come out the other side the next morning after having open heart surgery with 5 blockages. I was in intensive care for weeks. I was in hospital for weeks. And I remember when I was lying in intensive care and people dying around me, I thought to myself, you are a fool. Why did you not look after yourself? You were morbidly obese, you were unhappy, you were unhealthy, you thought you were doing things the right way, worrying about everybody else. But that was wrong of me to do that. And I said to myself, well, both beds either side of me, those people both died. And I was still there, and I could see I'd remarried, I'd been a widow for 10 years, and the look in my husband's face when I had to go into dialysis because my kidneys failed, and I was very, very ill. And I said, if I get another crack at life, this is going to change, if I get out of here alive. So I got out of there after a long time, then I had to go and see my kidney specialist because I was probably going to have to go on dialysis permanently because my kidneys have gone down to 8% function. And I'm a solution person and I like answers. I like straight answers. I said, what's going to happen to me? She said, you'll be dead in 6 months. That was the truth. I had 4 doctors, 4 specialists looking after me, 3 men and 1 woman. She gave it to me straight and she gave me the rounds of the kitchen, which is what I needed. Went home that night, I cried all night. I said, you fool, you're looking after everybody else, volunteering, and I realised you cannot do all those things if you're not looking after yourself. So 4 years ago, I changed my life. I went from 120 kilos and I stand here tonight at the weight of 67 kilos. I've never felt happier, healthier. My husband now calls me the Eveready Bunny. I zip everywhere. He stands in one spot and he said, she'll be back, don't worry, she'll come back. So this life now is so different. I'm so much healthier. But I realised the words that my father said to me when I was a little girl. We didn't have money, we had good food, we didn't have any of the extra comforts of life. And he used to say to me, Susan, your health is everything. Your health is wealth. If you don't have your health, you cannot do anything. You cannot volunteer. You cannot be the good person that I know you want to be. And all of you in the audience tonight are incredible volunteers. And you make such a difference to the community you live in. But you must look after yourself because you cannot do all those things. So it's led me to make a lot of lifestyle changes. I remember when I first started, I said, where do I start? I'm so fat. Going to the gym, too fat. Getting on a bike, it nearly killed me. My backside was so sore because I was sent for rehab after open heart. I got on that bike and I couldn't walk afterwards. My feet wouldn't even touch the ground. I never want to see a bike again. So I decided I'd walk and I started off with 1 kilometre. And my legs were chafing and I was really unfit. And then 5 kilometres and then 10 kilometres. Cut my food in half and I was on my way to losing weight. But it took a while. It took a lot of hard work. And now it's hard work to keep it off, but it's been worth the journey. So I took on all those lifestyle changes and I've got so much more energy. But I want to say to all of you here tonight, to my fellow Australians, that prevention is far better than a cure. But of course, spending a considerable amount of time in hospital, as well as decades of engagement with the diabetes community and research community, reinforces my belief that we must focus on the individual, not just the lab coats and research initiatives. Health and well-being, especially mental health, is much more than just looking at statistics, trends, cost-benefit analysis and the like, and all those important indicators that don't measure human frailty. We need to remember that behind every diagnosis or illness is a distraught sufferer grappling with the concept of living with a chronic disease for the rest of their life, and quite often concerned parents who are frightened at the prospect of micromanaging the child's sugar levels and carbohydrates and the like. When Danielle passed away over 20 years ago, I promised myself that I would work night and day as the ultimate volunteer to find better ways to treat, prevent and hopefully one day find a cure for diabetes. She was my only child, my daughter. I'd now lost her, my mother, my father, my mother-in-law who I adored, and of course my daughter. And my grief was immense, but I internalised a lot, relied on my faith and put much of my energy working hard through volunteering for organisations and participating in activities that truly made a difference. But now I'd like to give you some insight into my involvement in helping establish a league of their own, the AFL Elite Women's Competition. It's a long-term dream of mine to create an elite women's league, which I was constantly told was all too hard, that we wouldn't get the corporate support needed to sustain the competition, and that the girls weren't even good enough to feature on primetime TV. Well, didn't we prove them all wrong? My own personal journey began, I hate to say it, more than 60 years ago. When I was a little girl, I'd go to the Western Whitton Oval with my big brother Richard, who's 15 months older, to support Footscray, now the Western Bulldogs. And I joined the cheer squad because Dad said it was a safe environment. Not that you didn't realise, but I never sat with my brother. How do you meet boys if you sit with your brother? So I joined the cheer squad, and as a result of the cheer squad, wanted to play footy. And I love football. You couldn't get a football away from me. My father used to say I'd eat a football. And we decided we'd form our own teams and we'd play other cheer squads on a Sunday because there was no footy on a Sunday. By the time I got to 15, I was giving as good as I got. My father was an umpire, was extra money coming into the household, and my brother was an umpire. He said, it's time to hang up your boots. I was told to retire at 15. I never forgave my father for that. My brother was able to go on and do all the sport he wanted, all the football he wanted, become an umpire. Well, I could have become an umpire, but they were not around then. Women didn't do umpiring. But I was denied. I was told to go home and knit and crochet. Well, I did that as well. My grandma taught me that, but I still kicked a football in the backyard. And if you know Housing Commission homes, they always had big backyards, and I used to kick the footy through all the fruit trees. We had lots of fruit trees, and over the fence and up the back. Never stopped me, and I used to go down to the park. And I hate to be I'm very modest, but I was a much better footballer than my brother. And I could always beat him no matter what. And when I used to go to the games, I'd run out to the centre of the ground, being the only girl, to kick the football and aim for his head. He didn't realise that, but I was always aiming for his head because I knew he'd get in the way. So I had to retire at 15. Never, ever, ever left me. How unfair that was. So I always dreamt of running out onto the ground and playing at the elite level. I was a good footballer. And I began supporting women's footy a long time ago. And for those of you interested in history, women's footy goes back, in fact, even further than 1913, when the men went to war and the women had to slot in their positions, and that was in Western Australia. So I guess you could say the first 100 years is the hardest to get anything going. So I decided quite some time ago, I was alerted to the appalling conditions and the lack of resources that women had to put up with trying to play the game that they truly loved. I was invited to go and speak at a game, women's game. It was a very low league game, many, many years ago. And I remember I love people, love talking to people, and I asked them how things were going. I'd been watching from the periphery for a while, women's football, and watching how it was just getting less and less and depleting in numbers. And I said, how's it going? And they said, it's pretty bad. They were on the verge of collapse. There was going to be no more women's football. They had no AFL support or any other football organisation. And while I was speaking at that conference, I thought, here you are. You can make a difference. You've been waiting for this opportunity. You're in a position, you've been reasonably successful. So I decided to write out quite a substantial cheque, and I kept that going for a number of years so they could then employ someone to get the show on the road. But I've never been in a room before when I've been speaking to people when the entire room burst into tears. I can't tell you what it meant to those women and men to have someone to come along and believe in them and help them play the game that they truly loved. And I can't tell you what it meant to me, express in words, the satisfaction I got. And all those years of waiting to know that I could truly make a difference, I was in a position to do that. I remember at my own board table at the Western Bulldogs, I said to Peter Gordon, I want to have a women's team. He said to me, we can't because we'll take the resources from the men. I said, no, we won't. I'll find sponsorship. Within 2 weeks, I had $500,000. And of course, the rest followed after that. But I couldn't understand why a sport that was loved and played by so many women, and quite honestly, I don't care if it's football, netball, basketball, we should be able to play all the sports that the men play and be given the same opportunities. They just didn't get the support. So with the birth of the AFLW, we've come from an under suburban league with a few loyal spectators, some great athletes and the spirit of having a go, to a nationally televised competition. Instead of exporting our best female players to other sporting codes, we're traditionally nurtured, as far as I'm concerned, remunerated their female participants. We're attracting a whole range of female athletes to our great game. If you talk about transforming people's lives through sport, and I can speak from experience, what it meant to me, my father encouraged me to play sport. It's also because I grew up in a very tough, rough neighbourhood. And I think Dad wanted to keep me from becoming a juvenile delinquent, although I think I still am. Many people still think I am a juvenile delinquent, but sport saved me as a child in the environment that I lived in. So it's just such a good thing for our kids to be involved in. So the game is the game is growing exponentially, not just here in Victoria, but also right around Australia. As you'll be aware, this was our 5th year of the national competition. The sport is bigger than ever. We need, of course, to continue to build and expand the pathways our young female footballers to play at the highest level. And again, in all sport, doesn't matter what sport our women play, they should be given the same opportunities as the men and the same pathways to play at the highest level. And the record numbers of Auskick and junior football participants will help with this task. And I know here I've been reading your sporting section today in the newspaper. Grassroots football is so important for the cohesion of our community, and the rise in the number of girls playing Aussie rules has been a joy to watch unfold. But one of the most disappointing aspects of the COVID-19 pandemic last year, beyond the huge economic and health impact of the virus across Australia, particularly here in Victoria, was the cancellation of many grassroots football competitions and the fact that we never played a 2020 AFL Grand Final. So it's why there was so much anticipation for the 2021 Grand Final this year. And if anyone barracks for Brisbane, well done to the Brisbane team. You're outstanding on Grand Final day. But figures released only just recently by the AFL have show now that nearly 600,000 women and girls play our game, which is an 11% increase from the previous year. It is the most popular female sport, or it's the fastest growing female sport in the country. Again, it doesn't matter if it's Aussie rules, whatever sport it is, again, support our women. The popularity of the game is quite amazing. I know that soon we'll have an elite female competition to rival the men's in terms of teams, depth of talent, and time goes on, reward for effort. I did mention to Gil and McLaughlin that I think the women should be the main game and the men should be the curtain raiser. But anyhow, give me 10 years, I'm working on that one. But as soon as the salaries are higher and we have new broadcast deals which are happening right now, are negotiated and corporate support continues to surge. So playing a team sport is a great way to keep fit, active and make friends. Playing sport for me taught me about teamwork, leadership, and it's interesting how much I've used so much of that I learned when I was a child, when I went into business with all the people that were working with me and for me, and how sport helped me in so many ways. But of course, women have always been involved as volunteers in the local football clubs, as the coach, the team manager, opening the canteen, running out the water bottles, paying the club bills, and often moonlighting as a team psychologist. I know there are many of you here tonight, wonderful, wonderful volunteers who volunteer at your local sporting club or the club where your kids or grandkids play. The spirit of volunteerism runs through the veins of most Australian rules footy clubs, as it does in other sporting countries in our great country. So in this modern 21st century Australia, let us celebrate the achievement of women playing at the highest level. We've come a long way, but there's still a lot more to be done. But women finally now have a league of their own. I mentioned my daughter. When my daughter was at Melbourne University, she said, "Mum, there are so many kids here who'd love to hear about your life in a man's world." I was in the building industry. I was the only female. I didn't ever see a woman. And I said, who'd want to hear about me? I dismissed it. 2 weeks before my daughter died, I didn't know she was dying. She rang me from New York, and two things she said to me. First thing was, "Mum, you're a walking hypocrite. You're morbidly overweight. What are you going to do about it? How dare you tell people what to do when you yourself are so obese?" That was painful. And then she said to me, "Mum, have you written that book?" And I said, "No." She said, "Promise me one day you'll write the book." And I never ever realised that my daughter was so ill. I didn't know until we actually got on the plane. She hid it from me. She hid it from me because she didn't want to worry me. She knew I was just so overwhelmed with work and people looking to me for leadership. And she thought, well, Mum's got enough on her plate. I wish I had have known a lot more sooner. But anyhow, I did write that book. It took me a long time to find the courage. It's a book that I didn't write to make any money. In fact, we've sold 13,000 copies. It was a book, it was my daughter's last wish before she died. It was the story of my life in a man's world and all the things that I've done over the last whatever number of decades. And it's like everything that I do. I don't make any money from that book. Any proceeds from that book go back into the community for medical research, because I truly want to make a difference to all the people that need support. And I know Danielle would want me to do that. And I know that if Danielle was sitting in the community, sitting out here tonight, she'd be very proud of me talking about the story of our lives. It took me a long time, though, to write it. She'd be proud of me talking about my journey in life, my passion for helping others, which is what she did, the importance of volunteers, and the important role sport plays in our community. I thank you, Shepparton, for having me here, the greater city of Shepparton, for having me here, and how fabulous it is that we can gather together after the year that we've all been through. But keep doing what you do to support one another in Greater Shepparton and beyond. And never forget how lucky we are to live in Victoria. And as far as I'm concerned, the greatest country on earth, Australia. God bless all of you. My book will be out there for $20 and I'll sign it for you tonight. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm sure everyone will agree that was a very powerful speech by her. And I'd just like to thank you again. Susan, if I can now ask you to answer some of the questions from the audience who have been busy writing their questions down while you have been speaking. I think we have some questions. Do we? Oh.
Have you noticed we've got 3 women as AFL presidents?
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill, and it's just wonderful. I remember Peggy when they tried to get rid of her, because and I said to her, "What's the problem, Peggy?" She's in Richmond, great team. She said, "Because I'm a woman." She stood firm. She stayed there, and guess what? She's got 3 premierships, and she's a woman. So if you barrack for Richmond, you're barracking for a very good team.
Given your knowledge as a director of the Volunteering Australia, do you think the volunteering sector will come back after COVID, or will it flounder?
Well, there has been a reduction in volunteers for obvious reasons, but I think it will come back. That's the news that I'm getting. I also serve on the Charities Commission as well, and I get to oversee all the charities, about 55,000, 60,000. And the message we're getting, and I've got a meeting in Sydney next week, is they are coming back, the volunteers, but it's so important to have volunteers in our community. Not only do you do so much good, and I'm not going to patronise you because you know what you're doing, but it makes you feel so good to know that you are making a difference in this country. And you've got so many opportunities, particularly up in the country. It's just country life and looking after one another is so important. I'm a country girl at heart. I live in the city, but my roots are in the country, and I know how important it is for volunteers in the country, how you stick together in times of crisis. And you can always see you sticking together and helping and supporting one another. And that's never going to go away. And I hope, God willing, it never goes away in the whole of Australia. But we do see volunteers coming back in my role as on Volunteering Australia.
If you were a young woman today, would you strive to play AFLW?
When I was, what was that?
If you were a young woman today, would you strive to play AFLW?
Absolutely, because I tell you what, I'd be in the geriatric team if they let me, but not with these fingernails. Look, we've got so many, women have got opportunity now, which I didn't have. I was denied the opportunity, but I've been able to make a difference to these little girls now that can, and I'm not the only one, there's been lots and lots of people, but now little girls can play at Auskick. In fact, you look around, you see more girls playing footy than boys. And then the argument is, oh, they'll get injured. You get injured in any sport. I played, I don't know how many sports, including football, basketball, netball, squash, tennis. I played everything. I did swimming. But you can get injured in any sport. And I would encourage any young girl who wants to kick a footy, have a go down to Auskick or whatever you have up here in Shepparton and learn the skills, because the skills you learn in sport is just more than sport. We need to get our kids off their backsides and stop playing on all this electronic stuff and go and playing and having and just mixing with their friends, not looking at a screen. Have a conversation. We've lost the art of communication. And just going and playing sport, you can communicate with one another. So it's more than playing football. It's more than sport, it's communication.
So we have a lot of brilliant young people here tonight receiving awards for volunteering. How can the community be better supporting young people when it comes to volunteering?
We need to encourage our young people to become volunteers. I mean, we get on in years and I'd like to see more flow on from younger people. And I guess that happens at school, and we teach them at school the importance of giving back. It's not all about them. I was taught right throughout my school years, don't think about yourself all the time. There are other people that need more help than you. I used to wonder how that was possible, but anyhow. But it's giving. We've got to encourage our children to think about others, not just about themselves. It's the Aussie way. It's the country way. You care about your mate. I mean, that's the word that started in World War II, I think, mateship. My father used to say mate all the time. So it's mateship, it's friendship, it's more than volunteering. And it's the country way. That's what you do. You look after one another. So it's. I just think you're an amazing group of people. I just can't tell you how honoured I am here tonight to be here with all of you and to acknowledge you. I know what you do for Shepparton. And anyhow, that's enough. I'll ramble on forever.
You've dedicated so much of your life to helping others. What drives you to do that?
I guess my parents, of course, number one. Number two, the nuns at school, how they taught me to think about other people, not myself. I'm a driven person. I'm a solution person. I don't take no for an answer. And I never, ever give up. I can recall when I went to the AFL in the early days to try and get a women's team, I was practically thrown out of the office. And I thought, well, okay, there's other ways I can do this. I don't have to rely just on you. I have to wait for the right time. So I am driven. I like success. I've had failure. I've lots of failure. But I'm just a driven person, and I truly enjoy, above all, making a difference in the community that I live in. It gives me enormous satisfaction to know that some of the technology they're using now in diabetes, whether it be in... I've had something to do with it. The islet transplantation program. I mean, I got millions of dollars from the government, and now this is something that's happening in hospitals. They'll be giving islet transplantation, albeit to people that are brittle diabetics. But it's transplant. I mean, it would never have happened if I hadn't have done what I did, went to government and said, you've got to match this. So making a difference is what drives me. And I know every one of you out there, we all do it in different ways, some in smaller ways. I've been given the opportunities, I've used them. I've never wasted an opportunity. Anything I've been given in life, I treasure what I'm given. I hope that I can keep on doing this till the day I drop dead. I hope I can leave a legacy behind that now I've truly made a difference. And when I was a little girl, I thought I was pretty special at 6, because that's when I started giving back to the community, because Mum and Dad insisted that I do it.
Out of all of your experiences, what is your greatest lesson / learning?
Biggest lesson for?
Biggest lesson, what have you learnt throughout your life?
Never give up. don't take no for an answer. My daughter used to say to me, Mum, will I be successful? How could I answer that? Well, she was already working like a dog. I said, work hard. That's where you'll be successful. Never give up. I've had sickness that you would not believe myself. And I don't suggest you do this, go to intensive care to learn about living your life. I did learn a very hard lesson in intensive care. What a fool I was. You must look after yourself first. You're not being selfish, because then you can do everything you want to do. And now I do all the things I want to do. I do need my 8 hours sleep though, but I just keeping fit and healthy. That is the most important thing that I learnt, and what a fool I was along the way not to do that. So that's what I would suggest. Prevention's better than a cure.
Well, thank you so much.
you.
I think that's all we have for tonight. If everyone could give Susan just another
Thank
round
you.
of applause. You're so inspirational. Oh my gosh. And now to the awards, the fun part. The order of proceedings for tonight will be the mayor and Susan will be taking turns to announce each category and winner. Each nominee will be acknowledged individually, but please remain seated until the category winner is announced. Once the winner of the category has been announced, they will be asked to come on stage and receive their certificate and trophy. Once the winner has been presented with their certificate and trophy, they are invited to speak for a few moments. And if the winners are part of a team nomination, 1 or 2 representatives please come up and collect the certificate/trophy. And once all the winners have been announced, at the end of the official proceedings, all nominees will be able to collect their certificates and have their photo taken. And now I would like to ask Mayor Kim O'Keefe to come forward and commence the awards, starting with the Young Volunteer Awards.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you so much. Before we do start, I think I would just like to thank Suzanne so deeply for coming tonight and just sharing. Your story was really incredible. It's such a privilege to be on the stage with you tonight, and you truly are an inspiration, not just to me, but I'm sure to everyone in the room tonight. So let's just give Suzanne another round of applause. Thank you so much. So we will be starting with the Young Volunteer Award. The nominees for the 2021 Young Volunteer of the Year Award are Noah Moore. Noah is a young man with a big heart and a great passion, collecting food for hampers to give to the homeless and supporting the Salvation Army. What an incredible young man. And I know that Noah is here tonight, and I had the privilege of meeting him a little bit earlier. So wonderful to have you in the room tonight, Noah. Tom Saxon is our second nominee, and Tom provides a strong youth voice for Greater Shepparton, making a difference through advocacy, leadership, championing young people's voices. Tom's passion and commitment to our community as a whole is contagious. It is my pleasure to announce that we have these 2 wonderful, wonderful recipients tonight, and the 2021 Young Volunteer Award is Tom Saxton. So Tom gives his time freely at a local, state and national level to provide a strong youth voice for Greater Shepparton. He makes a difference through advocacy, leadership and champion young people's voices. Tom's passion and commitment to our community as a whole, as we said, is contagious. Tom believes that volunteering is a privilege and that he gains so much more than he gives through his volunteering. Tom is a humble and kind and such a positive advocate for young people and our wider community. It has been a pleasure for me to get to know Tom, and I sincerely congratulate you, Tom. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I'm going to be a little bit cheeky tonight. I'm going to ask for a favour from all the volunteers here. So this year I've had the privilege of being an executive judge for the Victorian Young Achievers Award. Through that we've been able to see heaps of applicants that are just truly amazing young people. Like, to give you an example, there are people who are under the age of 25, they're dealing with businesses that are dealing with over hundreds of millions of dollars every year. We've got doctors who have dealt with, massive disabilities in their lives, and they're getting through it and they're not letting anything stop them. So what I'm going to ask everyone here today is, if you have any chances in your volunteering to encourage young people to keep doing it, by all means do it. If it's like, if it's a football or netball club, get them involved in the management of it. The actual benefits that we will receive from it will just be tremendous.
Our next award is the 2021 Adult Volunteer of the Year. The nominees for the Adult Volunteer Award are Severin During. Severin has been a driving force for volunteering in Mooroopna for the last 34 years. Severin is always amongst the first to volunteer to take part in any working bee or fundraising projects. Next one is Joy Sims. Joy is reliable, very reliable, approachable, willing to help and do whatever she can to make positive difference in someone's life. And the third one here is Robin Playford. Robin volunteers her time with Shepparton Family and Financial Services and has a wonderful, cheery personality that lifts everyone she meets. She's only too happy to assist each and every client. Gary Tomo Thomas. Gary, or Tomo as he's affectionately known, is a quiet achiever, never seeking accolades as he generously contributes his skills to build a strong and vibrant community of Mooroopna. Alana Baldy. Alana is a passionate and dedicated coach to athletes with a disability, running clinics throughout multiple clubs. Alana is a fierce advocate for inclusion and diversity and takes an immense amount of pride and joy in her volunteering. Michael DeLillia. Michael is a key member and driving force behind the Shepparton Search and Rescue. He's made massive contribution through the upskilling of members and upgrading of equipment of the Shepparton Search and Rescue. Karen Bollard. Karen is a dedicated volunteer for Greater Valley Calisthenics Club and Northerners Cricket Club, ensuring that these local clubs and their members function to a high standard. She gives selflessly and has a positive impact far greater than she could ever believe. Sue Terry. Sue is an enthusiastic advocate for the sport of equestrian. Sue is a leader to the wider equestrian community, supporting the running of COVID's safe events, support for judges, local scholarships and a hardship fund. So, the winner of the 2021 Adult Volunteer Award is Severin During. Okay. I'll just read you a little bit about this wonderful person. Severin has been a member of the Kiwanis Club of Mooroopna for 34 years. He was the driving force behind Kiwani building the Kiwani station and Kiwani's workshop at Kidstown. Being involved with Kiwani's TER Terrific Kid and Build a Bike program has given primary school students hand-on skills and a sense of achievement. He worked with others in establishing the Mooroopna's Men's Shed, and as a volunteer mentor, driver at the L2P program, Severin has assisted 8 young people get the 120 hours practice needed to get their licence. God, 120 hours with all those. Oh God, only one was enough for me. This has helped these young people be independent and in many cases gain employment. Severin, I invite you to come to the podium. Well done.
I'd like to first, it was Murray that put the nomination in through Kiwanis, and I gather she got nearly all that information from my wife Robin, who you can't do the volunteering you need to do to help the community without someone behind you, and Robin's been there all the time to help me. But you, as you say, you get more back from volunteering than you do actually volunteering, so giving your time is nothing. And I'm probably pretty privileged to know Kim, and from her she does probably more volunteering than anyone else around here. So with that, I'd just like to thank all the other competitors, because I think any one of them could have won that award. It's got really top volunteers put up this year. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the next award is the 2021 Volunteer Team of the Year. The nominees for the Volunteer Team Award are the Historical Society of Marupna. The Historical Society of Marupna is a small band of volunteers achieving great things. They deserve recognition for their untiring work and particularly for their persistence in securing a permanent home for the Marupna Museum. The Salvation Army Thrift Shop Marupna. The energy, enthusiasm and hard-working attitude of the Salvation Army Thrift Shop team in Marupna is an inspiration. They are the most enthusiastic and hard-working volunteers. Shepparton Food Share, which I had the privilege of volunteering during the pandemic for 8 months. So it's wonderful to see you all here tonight, and we do not also do any voting. We don't know who the winners are, just so everyone knows in the room. The COVID-19 pandemic saw a number of programs, agencies and schools closed down. Shepparton Food Share were able to remain open to support agencies and programs that were still running. Without the volunteer support, this would not have been possible. The Greater Shepparton Visitor Centre. The Greater Shepparton Visitor Centre volunteer team devote thousands of hours of their time as ambassadors promoting their region. They aim to maximise visitor experience and encourage return visitation to the region, and they do an outstanding job. Park Run Shepparton. The Shepparton Park Run volunteer team run 52 free events per year. They have managed to build a community within a community that has fostered lifelong friendships whilst encouraging people to get out of their homes and to be active. Something we heard that was very important tonight from Suzanne. It is my pleasure this year to announce the winner of the 2021 Team Volunteer Award is Shepparton Food Share. So during COVID-19 peak, Shepparton Food Share unfortunately saw a number of programs, agencies and schools close down. The volunteers stood up to these changes and embraced them with a positive attitude and commitment to ensure those in need received the support they needed. Because of the commitment of its volunteers and new volunteers, Shepparton Food Share were able to remain open and service and support the few agencies and programs that were still running. Without the volunteer support, this would not have been possible, which would have meant a large number of individuals and families would have gone hungry throughout that period. Congratulations for your amazing efforts, and it was such a privilege to spend some time with you last year. Congratulations to Shepparton Food Share.
Thank you, Kim. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Shepparton City Council on this award. We're so honoured to be here tonight and grateful to be recipients of this award, which acknowledges the amazing work, commitment and dedication of our team of volunteers. Shepparton Food Share was established in 2012 and is the only local food rescue agency in the area. Food Share's role as a food collection, warehousing, redistribution service also relies on relieves businesses from dealing with the hundreds of agencies who formally sought support via food and financial donations, streamlining the process for the businesses who want to donate and agencies who need food for the people they support. On average, 300,000 kilos of food is distributed annually to registered emergency relief agencies, schools, community meals programs and churches. The people supported by these agencies include children, homeless, people from culturally and linguistically diverse communities, including new arrivals and refugees. Shepparton Food Share is an integral part of the statewide network of food rescue agencies. Reciprocal food swaps and food sharing is conducted weekly. This collaborative approach ensures the diverse and accessible food supply. To deliver this service, Food Share partners with supermarkets, businesses and other food rescue agencies statewide to provide nutritious food. Food Share stores the food according to regulation guidelines to extend the shelf life of their donated and rescued food, to then provide nutritious meals and prevent edible food from entering the waste stream. It operates under a model in which there is no fee for service, other than a small one-off fee at registration. All food is provided to registered agencies on an agreement they will provide to those needed for free. There is no potential to charge for the food, as these people can simply not pay for it. With the equivalent of just one full-time staff member, FoodShare is able to deliver this critical service that feeds people in need, provides a safe and coordinated environment for volunteers, and directly reduces landfill. Without the amazing team of volunteers, this service could simply not exist. We think that they truly are the backbone of Shepparton FoodShare, and for that and so much more, we say thank you. On behalf of Grace Grieve, our Operations Coordinator, who couldn't be here tonight, thank you for all the work that you do for your community and for being the amazing team who you are. Thank you.
Before we announce the Long Service Volunteer of the Year, we have a short video to play of local volunteers and their experiences of volunteering in the greater Shepparton community. A huge thank you to our young local videographer, Tom Nethersole, for his work in putting this video together.
My name's Jonathan Jones.
My name's Chris Windsor.
I have volunteered as a literacy mentor for Lighthouse for about 4 or 5 years now.
I'm an ex-motor mechanic. I had a business here for about 18 years as a workshop, and I volunteer for the pit stop program for Lighthouse.
I'm a volunteer with GV Family Care. I volunteer because I really want to give back or contribute to the community. It keeps me active. I'm retired, it gets me out and about, and it's a real social thing for me, and I really like it.
My parents were always fairly heavily involved in the community in different areas of their expertise. I don't have any particular skills from my working life that I can give back, but this is something I feel I can do to help out in our community. And we had a business in Shepparton for a long time, and I feel it's my way of giving back to the community after being supported by Shepparton for so long.
I've volunteered in my business for a long time, and also in the community ever since I can remember. I think it's just a personal thing for me, especially after I left work. I was looking for something to maybe fulfil a role, so I decided I'd volunteer. Many years ago, 1982, I started with Marootna JCs, and been involved in the Healthy Herald, the life education, all the way through. I've basically volunteered, so pretty much, yeah, that's how it is. I just got on a roll and haven't stopped. So
I've been involved in volunteering in various forms, basically since I started work at 18 years old, in so many different ways and areas. Lots of different social groups, networks, environmental groups, emergency recovery areas, and in the last 10 years or so, since I've wound back my work commitments and everything, much more on agency, NGO type things, such as bus driving committees, and more recently my role with GV Family Care.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago I started with Lighthouse. I was doing some reading at the Marootna Park Primary School, and I've since actually kept on fundraising for Marootna Park through Lighthouse for their healthy eating program. but mainly I just do the reading at the Greater Shepparton Secondary College. I think that's the beauty of this kind of volunteering. I only spend an hour a week volunteering, but I don't think it takes much to be effective as a volunteer in Shepparton. And I think a little bit, a lot, or often can make a big difference. It's the regularity, I think, that makes the difference. You can make a real connection.
It varies a fair bit, but I average probably 2 full days a week.
Between 3 and 4 days a week. As my role out at the pit stop program, we also try to generate interest in the community and keep in contact with my contacts in the industry, so we may be able to help the kids out to get a placement. That's what I done when I was in business, so I thought if we can get the kids out there, I think that's half the problem. We have a range of skills we try to teach. We have all sorts of things. We start off with basic mechanics, like checking all the fluid levels on your car, changing a tyre, and then we're fixing a lawnmower, all of those simple things that we take for granted, and if you haven't used them skills before, it's hard to pick up. We also do a bit of woodworking right across the board. We try to teach them whatever they are really interested in.
My latest volunteer role at GV Family Care is I'm a member of a Reconciliation Action Plan, which is we're going to develop an action plan and implement it, and basically all the staff are really keen and sort of make it aware and a really worthwhile document.
So as a literacy mentor, I guess technically we're reading with the students, but often it turns into just a general conversation. And I think that means more to the kids, that you're listening to them, that you're interested in them, and showing that adults are caring about them and that their community cares about them. The most challenging part about the volunteering I'm doing is the school system itself. It's very different to when I was at school, but I enjoy a challenge, so that goes bye-bye.
For me, is probably in my situation at the moment is coming up with new programs, new things to stimulate their minds and use their brains.
Mainly probably COVID, which meant that I couldn't volunteer at times, and we had activities planned and I couldn't do them. There's never been really many challenges because I've always been so keen to do it. Maybe I'm a bit older and I get a bit of arthritis, so when winter comes I'll struggle a bit. I'm really enjoying the RAP process. I've always been very involved with cultural awareness and done lots of studies there, but the unique opportunity to know what's going on around the area, particularly Shepparton and Seymour, the recent Plates Walk and the Pangarang House visit, and just sharing the knowledge. And well, it's an awareness thing. You don't really know what's there and available until you actually start participating.
The nicest experience I've had recently was last year when we were in lockdown. We were listening to the kids read via Zoom, and a 45-minute session would sometimes turn into an hour and a half, just having conversations. And I think being in that socially isolated kind of position, the need to connect with someone in the community was even greater, and it was really nice to be able to get extra time in that capacity.
Oh, absolutely. I think the payback to the community is so good if you volunteer. And your volunteering doesn't mean you've got to do 4 days a week or 3 days a week. Just like an hour is enough. It makes so much of a difference. And with COVID, the disconnection of everybody, to reintegrate the community is a great way, I think.
Oh, definitely. It's you don't know what you're missing out on until you actually start participating and enjoying it. It's all about learning. I really encourage it. I think it's a great thing.
Absolutely. I think volunteering, especially in the capacity that I do it, is a very small time commitment, and it's a very flexible commitment, but the rewards are significant for the volunteer and the people who we volunteer to help.
The 2021 Long Service Volunteer of the Year. The nominees for the Long Service Volunteer Award are Lloyd Olin. Lloyd deserves this award to recognise his selfless and passionate contribution to the Shepparton Golf Club. Lloyd is a quiet achiever who goes about his volunteer duties with minimum fuss. Lloyd is reliable, loyal, and his kind nature is exemplary to all. Jeff Long. Jeff is a quiet achiever. He's also always exploring opportunities where he can assist and support others in our community. His Rotary philosophy of service before self has driven his devotion and loyalty to every member of our local community and beyond for more than 40 years. Tom Brewer. Tom has made a tremendous contribution to fundraising and enhancing the lives of people living in our local community through 46 years of dedicated service to Rotary. His contribution is legendary through active fundraising and tireless support of disadvantaged people in our local community. Gwen Wallace. Gwen has given tirelessly to our community in a variety of capacities for many, many years. She touches the lives of others through her kindness and generosity. Gwen enjoys bringing joy to others and goes out of her way to do this. Peter Holland. Peter has selflessly volunteered his time to Central Park St Brendan's Cricket Club, Cricket Shepparton, Shepparton Hockey, Shepparton Football Netball Club, to name a few. Peter is a quality person who applies his work, experience and knowledge for the betterment of cricket, hockey and football to both junior and senior level. John Bully Ellis. John Bully Ellis lives and breathes Caramomas Cricket Club. Bully's passion and love for the club is unsurpassed. No job is too big, no challenge too difficult. Bully welcomes support and encourages everyone. And thanks to him, none of their achievements go unnoticed. Dookies Lion Club. The Dookies Lion Club was formed in 1973. The familiar yellow and purple lion shirts are to be seen at many Dookie activities, and members are always on hand to help when asked. They are a group of dedicated Dookie citizens who work hard to uphold the Lion motto of "We serve." Marita Taverner. Marita has sacrificed much of her lifetime, positively impacting the lives of many Australians at her youth and over 15 years of free settlement services to African refugees who have been resettled in Greater Shepparton. John Kennedy. John has committed 66 years of volunteering to the CFA and 30 plus years for the Community Progress Association. John is a man who puts others first in the community, first without complaint, without fuss, without expecting that something at the end of the job. The winner of the 2021 Long Service Volunteer Award is, it's a dual winners this year, Jeff Long and Gwen Wallace. Jeff Long's commitment to the people of the Goulburn Valley is reflected in his many volunteering roles to support community organisations and disadvantaged groups. His Rotary philosophy of service before self has driven his devotion and loyalty to every member of our local community and beyond for more than 40 years. As a very active member of Rotary, Jeff is instrumental in the fundraising of thousands of dollars each year, which are dispersed to assist community organisations, to representing and advocating for child and adult mental health on the GV Health Board, the delivery of Meals on Wheels to the elderly. Jeff is a very quiet achiever. Although his week is busy with both volunteer work and part-time employment, he is always exploring opportunities where he can assist and support others in our community. And I'll just read Gwen's and we'll have them both come up together. Gwen is 93. Gwen is a standout volunteer who deserves to be publicly recognised and thanked for all she has contributed to the wider community for many, many years. Gwen has given tirelessly to our community in a variety of capacities. She's touched the lives of others through her kindness and generosity. Gwen enjoys bringing joy to others and goes out of her way to do this. One of her fellow volunteers says, Gwen is like the grandmother everyone wants. She has a heart of pure gold and makes everyone feel very special. She has a special gift of brightening everyone's day and bringing out the best in people. Gwen's commitment to serving her community is a wonderful example of how one person can truly make a difference. I'll ask the first one to come. We're going to have ladies before gentlemen speak. Ladies before gentlemen. There you go, Queen. Well done.
Well, I feel very humbled to be here when I think of all the volunteers at hospice. And I'd like to thank them for nominating me, but I don't know, I think they've got the wrong name. But I've just loved working there. They've just been so kind and friendly. And I just feel that it's lovely to be able to do a little bit for them because hospice does a great work.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm doing everything that you were doing at 93. I've got Papa, that's your award. There you go there. Would you like to carry it?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well done. You're a wonderful lady.
To those present here tonight, the fellow community members that volunteer many, many hours, I feel humbled to have been chosen for this award. I only hope that I'm still around at 93 doing what Gwen does. What a great tribute to her. I've volunteered for over probably 50 years, I suppose, through kindergartens and school council and Cubs and all the other things. But I don't do it for any recognition, and I certainly didn't do it to be here tonight. I'm going to lampoon my fellow Rotary member that nominated me, Dennis Muter. You're in big trouble. It's going to cost you a fine at the next meeting. So it's an honour to receive this, and I thank you all very much.
Please join me in congratulating all the nominees and to everyone who volunteers. And a huge thank you to our keynote speaker, Susan Alberti, and a thank you to Mayor and Councillor Kim O'Keefe, and thank you to all of our audience members here at River Links East Bank, and a massive thank you to all the people who are watching from home. We hope you enjoyed the 11th Greater Shepparton Volunteer Recognition. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Sorry. Recognition. There you go. Thank you. Awards. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a very lovely night.